and today I'm going to read chapter 3 of this Majestic, the New World. Ling, I know you're trying to act like a cat. So let's read chapter 3. Chapter 3. Ling's gonna play video games. I don't know why. Anyways, Office Party, Chapter 3.
I'm playing a pixie game. You see, you find it in the app store.
I'm gonna read Chapter 3 of The Office Party. Let's do it. Joey and Janel landed in darkness. Outside on the bridge, the tunnel was still getting shelled, so Janel kicked out with her foot to close the door behind them. After that, everything went quiet. The bombardment finally stopped. Exhausted from their ordeal, Joey and Janel allowed themselves a moment to lie on the floor in silence. It seems they were out of danger for the time being, at least. You're going to use the wand, Janel said to Joey. Janel said to Joey after she caught her breath. It was an accusation.
Hi.
It's accusation.
Backgrounds.
It's accusation. Oh, where was I? Oh, yeah. It was an accusation. He sat up and put the wand away, guilty as charged. I know. You said you wouldn't do that. You promised. Emergency only, I said. You don't think the situation qualifies? Emergency only means last resort. It doesn't qualify unless you try every other option first. You weren't going to try any. Did you see me lose my bag out there? That could have been my head or yours. I didn't want to find out the hard way that the staff would have cut it. Fortunately, it did. Joey stood up and looked around. The broken door let in a little light, but not much. Let's not argue about it. It's over, and I didn't have to use the wand. He reached out a hand to help Janel up. Thanks to you. Janel told Joey's hand. Nothing is over. We're just getting started. You need to be more careful. I know. Let's get some light in here, Joey said. He flipped the light switch. Doop! In the office building's modern corporate environment returned. They were in a posh executive suit with an incredibly soft gray carpet. Joey could feel its cushion and bounce through his sneakers. It was like standing on a pillow. The room had a minimalist design, black walls with dark wood accents, and no artwork hung anywhere. Floor to ceiling windows that wrapped around. The office gave its occupants something better to look at. Joey could feel its cushion bounce through his sneakers. It was like standing on a pillow. The room had a minimalist design, black walls with dark wood accents, and no artwork hung anywhere. Floor to ceiling, window that wrapped around. The office gave its occupants something better to look at. The scene outside the window was not one that could be found outside the 13th or even the 14th floor of any building in Midtown Manhattan. Somehow their vantage point was higher, looking down the spire of the Empire State Building, and all the way out to the Freedom Tower at the southern tip of the city. Odd as it was, Joey didn't give it a second though. There was magic at work, and he'd seen stranger things, much stranger. He gravitated towards the desk, which was empty, save for a, a blank notepad, a paperweight, some papers, and a business card holder. A wall of flat screen TVs filled the space behind the desk, which Joey found excessive. He couldn't help but notice the office was twice the size of his living room back home, with a much nicer sitting area, leather couches, and comfortable chairs were arranged around a coffee table. On the far side of the room, in the corner, a bar tray shaped like a globe was stocked with what Joey assumed were very expensive bottles. Nobody home, Janet said. She spun the staff of sorcery around clockwise, shrinking it back down to the size of a baton. Joey didn't ask Janet what the science behind that move was. So Janet, you know the staff of Sorcio, right? Well, she spun it around counterclockwise. So and then after that, he made it shrink into a small baton, like a bat. If she overthought it, she might not be able to do it again. She took a shiny black bag the size of a pillowcase out of her inside jacket pocket, and shook it out. Think we'll be able to get what we came for? We'll get our chance. Just don't let your guard down, Joey warned. Stay frosty. Stay frosty. He had put the Firestone pendant back around his neck, but he stood ready to grab it at a moment's notice. Stay frosty. Janet tried out the phrase with a smirk. What movie's that one from? Not everything I say is the line from a movie. Janet raised an eyebrow and waited. Joey sighed. Aliens, Battlestar, Galactica, Call of Duty, take your pick. Janet snickered. I like how you mix in a video game reference this time. This is the boss level. Janet walked past the couches, glancing at the business magazine and financial trades on the coffee table. It's not what I expected. Not at all, agreed. Not at all, Joey agreed. You have to run some kind of extra dimensional gauntlet to get here. But then once you're inside, Joey trailed off, shaking his head. I thought it would look like Doctor Strange mansion in the village, or a Death Eater's lair, not some boring banker's office. The wall of the TVs is kind of Bond villain-esque, Janet said. I guess Joey found the remote and hit the power button. The TV flickered on, but Joey muted the screen before the volume kicked in. What are you doing? I wanted to see what he watches. The TV were each set up to a different news channel. The stories that flashed around across the scene were all too familiar. Wildfires in Australia and California, red skies up and down the west coast, which made it look like Mars. Polar ice caps melting, oil spills and pollution, hurricanes, tornadoes, droughts, and floods. That was just the tip of the rapidly disappearing iceberg. Everywhere Joey looked, the planet was dying and no one was doing anything about it. He shut the TV off. Doop! He had seen enough. The world needed saving, and not just from the invisible hand. magic was the key. Joey thought about all the polluting the industries people tolerated, the fossil fuel that the world couldn't live without. By this time tomorrow, they would all be made obsolete. After all, who needs oil when you've got magic? Yeah, you don't need oil because you have magic. Yeah, I don't have magic. This book is a fantasy book, so it's not really real. See? It says fantasy right there. See? It's not really real. Well, I think magic is real, right? I don't know. But if it was, I would have used a wand and I'll invent the flying city. And I don't have a wand. If I have a wand that actually worked, I'll turn the whole city into flying, and then this whole city will be flying. Woohoo! Okay, that would be really silly and funny. All of a sudden, we'll be lifting off from the ground. The city will be lifting off from the ground. It'll be up in the skies. It was the ultimate sustainable solution. Limitless clean energy just waited to be tapped. There was only one catch. People had to believe in them. That was where Joey and his friends came in. They were going to shake the world out of the state of learned helplessness it was in and introduce new possibilities. New wonders, like Shazad's mother had said. People need to be shocked into a new way of thinking. Shocked into a new way of thinking. As far as Joey was concerned, it was the only way to save the world from itself. People needed the change they could believe in. The Order Majestic was going to give it to them. But they couldn't do it alone. Janel crossed the room to the desk and picked up a business card from a stack in a silver container and identified Legerdemaine as CGI's exclusive executive vice president, of strategic development, operating under the alias John Black. Why not CEO? She asked, showing the card to Joey. Not his style. He'd rather be the guy behind the guy, the power behind the throne. From her, he pulls CGI string. Joey continued to explore the room. So you know the Firestone pendant, right? Yeah. So the Firestone pendant is really powerful. It can save you. It can save your life, actually, from the death of, I don't know, the invisible hand, I think. It's pretty powerful. If you lose the Firestone, I don't think you can save yourselves. It's very risk powers that can attack you. So really, I think the Firestone is really powerful, so just indeed of it. There wasn't much to see. There were no trophies or bookshelves with interesting relics placed among the books. There was nothing that seemed to be of any value to them in their quest for information, nothing they could learn from. Didn't even have a computer. Janelle went through the desk drawers and found a black leather journal. She took it out and started looking through it. Anything juicy in there? Joey asked after a few seconds. Janelle bunched up her lips. Bunched up. Scanning the pages quickly. Scanning. Nothing we didn't already know or suspect. It does confirm that Damien had a hand in the NSA and DARPA taking over our, taking over our energy project at Caltech last year, and he's got fixed news media running counter-programming against Camelot, calling it a hoax. No surprising there, Joey said. Jian kept reading. Listen to this. Black Card Protection, a subsidiary of CGI Military Solutions, to recall 10,000 private security contractors from an assignment in the Arctic Ocean in North Pacific due to the inactivity and reduced threat level at target sites. She closed the book. That's good news. Nice to know we were right about that, Joey said. It should make Shazette's and Lenora's life a bit easier tonight. At the moment, Joey and his friends had the element of surprise on their side. Had Nova erased Damia's memory of them outside Camelot, and for the last year, they had been free to do as they pleased without drawing the attention of the invisible hand. The advantage had been a game changer, allowing the Order to mount an offensive for the first time since Hoond. I'm gonna check what time is it. So the time right now in Toronto, Ontario, it's 7:37. Where was I? Oh yeah, that advantage had been a game changer, allowing the Order to mount an offensive the first time since Hoond Indy. Joey spotted a game board set up on a small table behind the desk. He had missed it on his first lap around the room, but now it stood out to him as an item of interest. He approached the board. It was a thick, round slab of dark marble with concentric circles growing out from the center in fading shades of gray. There were 5 tokens on the board, each about the size of a standard chess piece. They were carved out of different material and came in different colors. 2 of them, the red ruby and the gray stone pieces, had been set on their sides as if lost or captured. Joy wondered if they represented Scarlet and Grayson Manchester. The remaining pieces were black obsidian, white ivory, and what to Joy's untrained eye appeared to be a flawless diamond. Joy picked up the crystal and ivory pieces and studied them closely. The ledger de Mania had once referred to the struggle for control over the world's supply of magic as the Great Game. Joy assumed the black was de Mania, but these other 2 were question marks. He wondered who they were. Joey set the pieces back down, but unfortunately, he wasn't careful to put them back where he found them. He placed them in the center circle, and suddenly there were 2 new people in the room. Janet hit him in the shoulder, her eyes the size of a gobstopper's. Joey, heads up, we got company. Joey took a step back, but there was nowhere to go. He had the window behind him, and the 2 men who had just materialized out of thin air were standing in front of the office door, blocking the only way out. Joey and Janet and the 2 strangers stood there in silence. Everyone seemed equally surprised to be there staring at each other. Joey didn't know who the 2 men were, but he knew they were trouble. He got a bad vibe from both of them. One of them was 6 feet tall, muscular. 6 feet tall, muscular, and well dressed, sporting a shirt, a tie, and a stylish patterned vest. He wore a flashy watch, some large rings, and had a little pouch at his waist attached to a thin gold chain. He was bald, but had thick, well-groomed beard. So, so he has a beard. He was handsome, but intimidating. His sleeves were rolled up to the elbow, and his pink skin was covered with tattoo. The other man wore a heavy coat with a fuzzy collar, and a scarf that was wrapped around his neck and tucked into a sweater. Joey thought he looked like he belonged in a ski lodge. His face was thin, and his skin was pale, almost to an unhealthy degree. He had light blonde hair that was so fair it was almost white and striking blue eyes. But the dark circles underneath softened their glow. Joey noticed a bracelet on the wrist of his left hand, with a single clear stone. "Mr. Ivory," the man in the winter coat said to the man with the beard. When he spoke, Joey saw his breath form an icy white vapor. "Mr. Clear!" "Mr. Clear," the bearded man replied, recognizing his counterpart. This is a surprise." He eyed Joey and Janet with an air of reserved curiosity. "I was just about to say I hate when the big man call us in like this, but the big man's not here, is he? What's this about?" he wondered. Joey looked back and forth between the new man and the game board, hearing them say their names out loud. He knew he had messed up big time. They were a part of the invisible hand, and he was responsible for bringing them there. He was about to move the pieces back to their original places when the man in the parka, Mr. Clear, stopped him. "Freeze! Freeze!" He reached out a hand, and the stone on his bracelet sparkled with light. The next thing Joey knew, his own hand was encased in a block of ice. He fell heavy into his side before he got near the board. "Don't do that," Mr. Clear said in what sounded to Joey like a Norwegian or Swiss accent. Maybe it was German. He didn't know. Mr. Clear cursed and zipped up his coat, muttering, "Unbelievable! I was just starting to warm up. Why don't we all take a step back from the game board?" said the larger of the two men. "Mr. Ivory." He motioned with his hand, and Joey and Janet did as they were told. "After all, we just got here. You two call us in. You two call us here. You can't go pulling a rug out from under our feet without even saying hello. That would be rude." Joey and Janet huddled close together. She looked at his hands in concern, and asked him with her eyes if he was all right. He nodded. His hands was freezing, but he didn't want to do anything rash. Not until he knew more about Mr. Ivory and Mr. Clear. They weren't part of the plan. Mr. Ivory Mr. Ivory went to inspect the pieces on the game board. He pointed at Joey, assuming he was the one who had moved them. "You moved the pieces, brought us here?" he guessed. "How did you know how this worked?" "I didn't," Joey said. I was standing there, and I don't know what happened. He was rambling, trying to figure out what to say and how to play this. Eventually he went with the truth. "I was wondering who those game pieces were supposed to be. I put them in the center and boom, there you were, just like that. Just like that, Mr. Aubrey nodded. Very interesting. Who are you? If you don't mind me asking, he looked at Janet. I heard you call him Joey, but I didn't catch your name. What are you two doing here? Joey and Janet said nothing. Are you lost? Mr. Ivory pressed it. Mr. Clear opened the door and looked outside. They broke in. Mr. Ivory took a peek at the wreckage in the hallway. Look at that. You came in the hard way. That's impressive. But again, I'm wondering what you're doing here. Why would you go through all that? Do you have any idea where you are right now? Whose office are you're in? What do you think this place is? Joyce shook a quick look at Jill and gave a tight, almost imperceptible shake of his head. Like this. Move so smallly. He didn't want to give up any information if he could help it. Maybe they could play dumb and talk their way out of this. The subtle exchange between Joey and Janet didn't go unnoticed. Look at you two, being all sneaky, Mr. Ivory laughed. Mr. Ivory laughed. Come on, you obviously know something about magic. My friends here turned your hand into an ice cube, and you didn't bat an eye. The question is, what do you know about us? Because you definitely know something. It's all right, you can tell me, he said, his tone softening as if he were trying to put them at ease. It wasn't working. Here's what I'm thinking. Maybe you heard rumors about this place, found out a few secrets, and wanted to learn more. Maybe you came here to join up with be company men, just like us, and company woman, he added, nodding to Janet. That wouldn't be the worst thing in the world. We could use some new blood. You know what? I'm gonna turn down the brightness a little. How about I'm gonna turn to 50. We could use some new blood. But then again, it could be you're here for a different reason. Mr. Ivory's eyes narrowed. It could be you're the people we have been looking for. The ones who caused all that trouble last year. The big man's been working awful hard trying to figure out who drove the camel smack dab in the middle of who dropped him on smack dab in the middle of an English meadow. Maybe there's a reason he missed you. Mr. Ivory tapped Mr. Clear on the shoulder. Just a theory. But I think we've got some new players in this game. Very new by the looks of it. Mr. Clear shook his head. That can't be. They're just children. His tone and expression changed mid-sentence, like he just realized something. What is it, Mr. Ivory asked. The ruby. That ruby. She got it on her lapel right there. Scarlet had one just like it. Wait. So who had the? I'm gonna try remembering, but who had the Firestone? So I'm gonna move down few pages just because I want to see who remember Joey and Jano? I want to know who had the Firestone pendant. So I'm gonna check around. I think Joey had it, right? That ruby she's got on her lapel there. Scarlet had one just like it. Mr. Ivory's eyebrows went up. I remember Scarlet. Hadn't seen her in a while. Mr. Clear made a fist. The stone on his bracelet lit up again, and the red ruby froze and cracked it in place. Janet let out a yell as she brushed frost off her shoulders and fragments of the ruby. Of the ruby fell to the floor, ruined. Nice work, Mr. Clear, said Mr. Ivory. You're 2 for 2. Mr. Clear seemed to derive no pleasure from his partner's compliments. He just shivered and blew on his hand, trying to warm them up. You look very uncomfortable. I know. I should have known, Mr. Ivory said. Never underestimate children. That'll be the death of you. I ever tell how I got started in this business? He asked Mr. Clear. Wasn't much older than they are in the time. I think there's some mistake here, Joey said. We don't know what you're talking about. Mr. Ivory put a finger up. I wasn't finished. He took a breath and went on in an even tone. Please don't interrupt. It's not polite. Mr. Ivory crossed the room to the bar in the globe. Where was I? He removed the top from one of the bottles. He removed the top from one of the bottles and sniffed at it. Oh yes, how it got started. I was young and foolish like you. Back in those days, kids used to bully me. Pick on me something terrible. Oh no. I was a scrawny child. People are always surprised to hear that, but it's true. When I stood sideways, people thought I'd disappear. Mr. Ivory put some ice in the tubular glass and poured himself a drink. One day, a bunch of kids were taking a hike in the woods near the place where I grew up. When they asked me to come along, I was thrilled. I was over the moon. Mr. Ivory raised his tumbler to his lip and took a sip. I should have known better. What happened? Joey asked, trying to buy time. He knew the story wasn't going to have a happy ending, but Joey wanted to keep Mr. Ivory talking while he thought about his next move. They ditched me. That was their plan from the start. Fun, right? They let me out there. I got turned around and trying to find my way back. And I had to spend the night alone. I was wandering around, lost and scared. Someone found me. Just like they found you. It was a woman. This old lady of the forest people talked about. She took me back to a shack deep in the woods. Deeper than I'd ever been before. Problem was, this particular old lady was a witch, and wouldn't you know it, she was fixing to eat me. Being skinny saved my life. because she wanted to fatten me up first. It was a real Hansel and Gretel situation. Difference was her house wasn't made out of candy. He paused and took another sip of his drink. Her house was made out of bones. Bones. Wow. A bone house. I do not want to have a bone house. House made out of bones? I feel scary if I go in that one. Anyways, I need to get some water, okay? Be right back. Got some water. Got some water here. Alright. Ah, tasty water. Tasty. Water's so tasty. Alright. Let's keep reading. Of course, I knew from the start something was wrong. But what was I gonna do? I couldn't get away. I couldn't get home by myself. Almost a week I was there, with this woman doing her best to turn me into a decent meal. She had her eyes on me every second. I couldn't get free, but I kept my eyes open too. I was looking for something I could use to save myself, and I found it. No spoilers there. I wouldn't be standing here otherwise. But here's the twist. You might be wondering why I'm Mr. Ivory and not my pastory friend here. It's because of my teeth. Teeth. Mr. Ivory smiled wide, showing off a bright, flawless smile with the exception of one empty space. He was missing a tooth, a big one, right next to his two front teeth. The old lady had a whole bag of teeth, a special bag. I stole them. I used them. I had to pull one of my own teeth out first. I didn't think I was strong enough for that, but you'd be surprised what you can do when your life is on the line. Janet covered her mouth, clearly disturbed by the story. That's horrible. Joey shuddered, trying not to picture the gruesome, desperate scene from Mr. Ivory's childhood. He didn't want that image in his head. Yeah, I don't like to have that. I don't like to have Mr. Ivory's childhood either. And I'm gonna try to get it out. Yeah. Okay, it's gone, I think. At the same time, a morbid sense of curiosity compelled him to find out how the story ended. I know I'm going to regret asking this, but what do you mean you used the teeth? Used them to do what? I'm getting to that, Mr. Ivory set his drink down on the desk. Oop. On the desk and reached for a small pouch at his waist. He unhooked it from his belt and fished around inside until he found what he was looking for. He removed a long, sharp tooth from the tiny bag and held it up so everyone could see. This one's a crocodile tooth. He opened his mouth and pressed the tooth into place, filling it in the gap in his smile. Wait until you see what it does. The transformation that followed was terrifying, even for people who were not used to seeing magic in action as Joey and Jenna were. Uh-oh. I think Mr. Ivory would be turning into a crocodile because there's crocodile tooth. Do transformation! Crocodile! I know it'll transform. They watched as Mr. Ivory's skin hardened, turning green and bumpy. The pupil of his eyes narrowed into slits, and his jaw grew wider to accommodate a mouthful of pointy teeth. He didn't get any bigger, but he was already big and frightening. Now he was downright gruesome. Funny thing about that tooth, it tastes like Captain Hook's hand. What? Mr. Ivory laughed, smacking his lips. But enough with me, smacking his lips. But enough about me. I want to hear about you. Let's start with your names and what you're doing here. Mr. Ivory took a step forward towards Joey and Janos. Janos reacted quickly and spun the staff of Sorciel back out to its full length and shifted her feet, adopting a fighting stance. Joey grabbed the firestone with his left hand, charging up his right hand with enough heat to melt and split the block of ice. There was no point in hiding what they could do anymore. Ha! What did I tell you? Mr. Ivory said to Mr. Clear. These two came to party. Stay back, Joey said. What is that? Mr. Clear asked, fascinated by the sight of the firestone, which seemed to be the exact opposite of the gem he carried on his wrist. Being warmth instead of cold. So Joey put the firestone on his hand, I think. So if he would put the firestone in his hand and then bring warmth to the other hand, that means the firestone is giving fire and like heat to the other hand. It's like transportation, a little bit. So he used the firestone to charge up the right hand with heat. It can break a block of ice. With enough heat to break a block of ice. You don't want to find out, Joey warned. I think I do, Mr. Clear said with a jealous look in his eye. Don't get your hopes up, Mr. Ivory told him. Big man gets first dibs on anything new. You know that. The big man's not here. Not yet, Mr. Ivory pointed at the game board. Joey turned and saw the black obsidian piece moving all by itself. His stomach tightened as it slid slowly across the marble, inching towards the center. In just a few seconds, the black piece in the person represented would be standing alongside the white in the clear. The fire in Joey's right hand flickered and dimmed. This was not how he'd hoped the night was going to go. The black game piece stopped moving. The office door opened, and in walked Ledger Demania, a.k.a. Mr. Black, leader of the Invisible Hand. Mr. Clear and Mr. Ivory stepped aside, making room for their boss, as he entered and took stock of the room without a word. If he was surprised to find such an electric group waiting in his office, he didn't show it. He was unflappable as ever, looking like an evil corporate raider in his $1,000,000 suit, with his wavy blonde hair. Wavy blonde hair. What was I? And youthful good look. His eyes settled instantly on Joey. You, he said, squinting as if he recognized Joey from somewhere, but he couldn't quite put his finger on where. I know you, don't I? Joey didn't like hearing that. He wasn't ready for Damania to remember him just yet, and he didn't like to think about what might happen if he stuck around much long. He wanted to get what he came for and get out of there as fast as possible. There was only one way to do that. He let go of the Firestone pendant and went for the wand. So he let it go, the Firestone pendant. He let it go. And went for the wand. That means he took out his wand. Don't get mad at me, Jano. This is a definite emergency. Okay. I finished chapter 3 of the book. Chapter 4 is Surprising Guest. Alright? Read chapter 4. So, remember those last videos, like why I want to save these animals and stuff like that? Well, I talked about vulnerable, endangered, 5 kingdoms of living things. Well, animal, to be exact, are actually has a DNA. Primates have they both almost have the same. I think that they have the same DNA. That means the same ability, right? No, orangutan. You can use. I think you can use orangutan use leaves as a cure to stop what was it? Soreness, yeah. Hands. What was it? Arm soreness. I think it's muscle. Yeah, muscle soreness. Muscle soreness. It's really powerful. That's what orangutan use it for. Whenever there was problems, they'll use some kind of, I don't know, a lotion to cure it. So yeah, primates. We are primates if you don't know, and we are called as humans, and humans have a species called Homo sapiens. That is their species names. We are also primates. If you don't know that, I'm just telling you that. Anyways, I think I should be done right now, so bye! See you later!